The old truck rumbled down Harbinger Lane, its headlights cutting through the thick summer night. 8-year-old Emily Parker pressed her face against the dusty window, her breath fogging up the glass. She peered out at the looming silhouette of the Victorian house. It stood at the end of the lane, shrouded in darkness. Its pointed towers seemed to claw at the night sky. Emily shivered. It was the summer of 1985. Her family had been forced to move from their comfortable suburban home to this creepy old house. Emily's dad had lost his job. This house was all they could afford. Emily hated it already. The house was 3 stories high and painted a depressing shade of gray. The paint was peeling. The lawn was overgrown and choked with weeds. A rusted swing set swayed ominously in the evening breeze. "This is our new home," Emily's mom said, trying to sound cheerful. Emily didn't answer. She knew she wouldn't like it here. She could feel it in her bones. This house held secrets, dark secrets. Emily stepped out of the truck. The air was thick with the smell of mildew and decay. A shiver ran down her spine. She didn't want to live here. She didn't want to go inside, but she didn't have a choice. The next day, Emily's parents were busy unpacking boxes. They didn't have time to pay attention to her, so she decided to explore the house. It was even creepier in the daylight. Cobwebs hung from every corner. Dust covered every surface. Emily wandered from room to room. Each one was emptier and darker than the last. Finally, she came to a narrow staircase leading up to the attic. She hesitated for a moment, her heart pounding in her chest. Something told her she shouldn't go up there. But curiosity got the better of her. The attic was hot and stuffy. Dust motes danced in the faint rays of sunlight that filtered through the grimy windows. Emily coughed, covering her mouth with her hand. She could hear the scurrying of mice in the walls. The attic was filled with forgotten treasures. There were old furniture, stacks of dusty books, and cobweb-covered paintings. In the corner, Emily spotted a large wooden trunk. It was ornately carved and bound with tarnished brass. Emily knelt down and tried to lift the lid. It was heavy, but she managed to pry it open. Inside, nestled in yellowed tissue paper, was a doll. It was a porcelain doll, about 18 inches tall. It had long, flowing black hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to follow Emily's every move. The doll was dressed in a beautiful antique gown of faded velvet, but there was something about the doll's vacant stare that made Emily feel uneasy. Emily carefully lifted the doll from the trunk. It was surprisingly heavy. She held it at arm's length, not sure what to make of it. She had never seen a doll like this before. It was beautiful, but there was something off about it. She couldn't quite put her finger on it. "What's your name?" Emily whispered to the doll. The doll didn't answer, of course. But at that moment, Emily could have sworn she heard a faint whisper. A whisper that seemed to come from right next to her ear. "Bella," the whisper hissed. "My name is Bella." Emily jumped back, dropping the doll in surprise. She looked around the attic, but there was no one there. She must have imagined it. There was no way the doll had spoken. Emily picked up the doll and decided to take it downstairs. She showed it to her parents, but they were too busy unpacking to pay much attention. "That's nice, honey," her mom said distractedly. "Just be careful with it." That night, Emily lay in bed, unable to sleep. She couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching her. The shadows in her room seemed to twist and contort, taking on sinister shapes. She could have sworn she heard the faint sound of footsteps creaking in the hallway outside her door. And every time she closed her eyes, she saw the doll's piercing blue eyes staring back at her. Over the next few days, strange things began to happen around the house. At first, they were just little things. A glass of milk would topple over, even though no one was near it. A picture would fall off the wall for no apparent reason. Emily's toys would move around her room when she wasn't looking. Emily tried to tell her parents about these strange occurrences, but they just dismissed it as her imagination. "You're just nervous about the new house, honey," her dad said. "It's a big change, that's all." But Emily knew it was more than that. She couldn't shake the feeling that these strange events were somehow connected to the doll. She had started keeping Bella in her room with her. At night, she would wake up to the feeling of someone watching her, and she would see the doll's head turned, its blue eyes staring directly at her. One day, Emily was playing in the living room when she heard a loud crash from upstairs. She raced up to her room and found Bella lying on the floor, her porcelain face cracked. The mirror that hung above her dresser was shattered, shards of glass scattered across the floor. Emily was terrified. She knew she hadn't knocked the doll over. She had been downstairs the whole time. Then she heard it. a soft, chilling laugh that seemed to echo through the room. It was a cruel, mocking laugh, and it sent shivers down Emily's spine. She knew with a certainty that chilled her to her core that Bella was responsible.